manage to cultivate the ocean, this next generation will be remembered as the first one, in the end, to feed the entire planet for the first time ever as human beings, while mitigating climate change, while boosting biodiversity, and alleviating poverty.
Welcome to the Global Network for Science and Diplomacy podcast, where science meets policy and where the next generation of scientists explores how research can help shape global decision-making. I'm your host, and today I'm delighted to welcome Vincent Doumeizel, Senior Advisor in Oceans to the United Nations Global Compact and author of the Seaweed Revolution. Vincent, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the GNSD podcast.
Thank you very much.
Vincent, before seaweed became a global conversation, it was just algae. So let's start at the beginning. What first drew your attention into ocean sustainability, and when did you realize that seaweed could be more than a scientific curiosity? Was there a moment where the scale of the opportunity suddenly became clear?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always complicated to point at a very specific moment. But I think I started my career in Africa where I realized what was world hunger and how it looked like, and it doesn't look good. And when you are 20 years old-ish, you want to change it basically. So I worked 20 years in the food industry all over the world, and I traveled a lot, and I had the chance to visit many countries also because of this. And I also realized that it was an easy resource to cultivate because you can produce a lot. And it dawned on me somehow that back 10 years ago that we became sapiens. Or modern human being, I would say, not sapiens, but modern human being, when we stopped being hunters-gatherers 12,000 years ago and became farmers. But that step change was only on land. And it never happened in the ocean, which are still 70% of our planet and 96% of the inhabitable space on Earth. So, and the figures that struck me is that 70% of our planet is covered by ocean that contribute to less than 2% of our food. While in the meantime, you have 600 million people starving. So how come? I mean, we have overexploited and destroyed almost our land, while we have totally neglected the ocean. That we considered as a big waste area. I mean, area to dump our waste, and we have still destroyed there a lot because we have not managed the ecosystem. So it dawned on me that let's move to the next big systemic and revolution, and that's how it dawned on me. And seaweed does not need land, it does not need pesticides, does not need to be fed. Just needs salt and water, and it doesn't even need to be watered actually. So that's fine.
Building on that, I'd like to explore how seaweed could contribute to addressing some of the major global challenges we face today.
Well, seaweed is a multifaceted resource. First of all, it's the greatest untapped resource we have on the planet, I think. I mean, it's already so massive. We can produce a huge amount of bioresource. I mean, biomass in places that are completely neglected today, meaning the ocean. So that's quite transformative. Talking about seaweed, you have to remember, is talking about a wide range of organisms. That's the source of life on our planet. The first I'm not even talking about algae, which are there for 4 billion years, but I'm talking about this multicellular organisms, seaweed, that are here for 1 to 1.5 billion years. So they were the first living complex organism on the planet. Everything came from there. Typically, there was initially the green and the red seaweed back 1 billion years ago, and the green seaweed 500 million years ago only moved on land and gave birth to the entire vegetation you see around you. So today, a green seaweed will be genetically much closer to an oak tree or to a strawberry than it is to a red seaweed. And the difference between a red seaweed and a green seaweed is bigger than the difference between a fungi and an elephant, from a genetic or evolutionary perspective. So we are talking about a wide range of organisms which offer an equally wide range of solutions. And you named it, seaweed will be a very, very healthy food, the healthiest food you can get. So long story short, if we manage to give 40 grams a day to each and every cow on the planet of this very seaweed, then the impact on climate through methane reduction, the impact of climate will be equal to stop each and every car and truck on the planet overnight. So quite massive. So seaweed can indeed replace as well fertilizers. Seaweed will recycle and upcycle phosphate and nitrogen. It will protect the microbiome of the plant and increase their resistance to salt, to cold, to dryness, and so forth, to drought, and so forth. So it's a very good for plants. It will replace plastic substitute made from seaweed. The Earthshot price a few years ago, so that's seen as the best way to replace plastic, which is obvious because most of the plastic and oil come from sedimented algae in the end. So and then it will replace cotton, it will replace ink, paintings, and so forth, and all the chemical that come from the oil industry. It will boost biodiversity as well. I mean, seaweed has the biggest habitat for biodiversity, and then last but not least, certainly, I mean, seaweed will contribute to tackle social injustice because it will give source of jobs and revenue to coastal community exactly where the fishing resources are declining sharply at the moment, endangering population, and they will contribute to this in a very inclusive way, benefiting to marginalized people and to the poorest community, notably to women. And we think in Zanzibar, notably, there's beautiful example of it, that seaweed can really further women empowerment and gender equity. And we see the same in Madagascar, in South Africa, and so forth. Seaweed is a strong way to meet a lot of the SDGs, basically.
That's very interesting to hear. Thank you so much. But from a scientific perspective, now you mentioned all of the good things that seaweed can do, but where are we still stuck today? What are the biggest breakthroughs needed to unlock its full potential?
Well, the big thing is to understand how it grows, basically. I mean, it took 12,000 years. It took 12,000 years to understand how to cultivate crops on land. So that was not overnight. And we need now to understand how to cultivate seaweed. And this revolution really started in Asia 60 years ago only. I mean, the first seaweed cultivation started 60 years ago, and now Asia cultivate just Asia 40 million tons of seaweed and represent 99% of the global production. So it's only there, it's only happening there. So we need to understand how to grow our seaweed. First of all, we have domesticated, and we know how to cultivate 10 to 20 species out of 12,000. So we still have a long way to go. And unfortunately, we don't know how to cultivate the most interesting one, notably in Europe and in America and in Africa. We only know how to cultivate the Asian one, and very few of them. So it's like you want to lead a green revolution across the world, but you only know how to grow banana, guava, and rice. So good luck to implement it in Europe and Alaska and Canada and so forth, because you're not going to grow that. So we need to learn the endemic species, how to grow them, that's the biggest challenge, I think, to unlock. And these are very complex, because these are very complex organisms with, once again, more than 1 billion years of evolution. So way more complex in their reproduction pattern than the land organism. So that's a tricky system, and it's happening in a very complex environment, the ocean, where we don't know much. Coming to the planktonic activity, I mean, it's still a black box. So there's a lot to overcome, but that's doable. I mean, and Japanese and Chinese and Korean did it, so we should be able to do it, and it has started already. We are progressing very well. The seaweed production has tripled worldwide in 20 years, so the revolution is well on the way already. The second big thing, which was not a problem and which has enabled this revolution to start in Asia, is to create a market. And we need to learn how to eat and consume more seaweed, because they are good for our body, they are good for our planet, and they are delicious. So that's the second big thing, because if there's no market, no one will produce seaweed. And that's the big of the egg and the chicken, and the chicken and egg so far. We are like, okay, there's no market, so there's no production, and there's no production, so there's no market. So we need to grow that together. Then there's a lot of other problems. We need to harmonize regulation, and we are working with FAO, with UNCTAD, with a lot of UN organizations in order to do that, to have good regulation around the world. We need to ease licensing, notably in the Western world, where it's way too complex. People are way too conservative when it comes to seaweed cultivation, because they are scared, because they don't know. We need to, in terms of science, to build some real biorefinery for seaweed, Because some seaweed, I mean, all seaweed are edible. 12,000 type of seaweed, all edible, but some of them are not really good. I mean, even when cooked, they might be not the right texture, not the right taste. So, but they have a lot of bioactives that are of interest. They can be used for feed, for biostimulant. They can be used for packaging. They can be used for many other things, and that will improve the resilience. So learning how to do a biorefinery is another thing. So there's a few obstacles on the way. Of course, it's not going to be an easy way to do, but there's a huge potential, and once again, it's an unlimited horizon of innovation that's ahead of us with seaweed.
And talking about innovation, in the case of seaweed, where do you see the most promising ideas tend to install? From science to engineering, engineering to industry, or industry into policy?
It will be everywhere. I mean, it has to be. We are starting a full supply chain from scratch. I mean, it has almost never been done over the last decades. So it will require a smooth collaboration from everyone. We need policymakers, we need science, we need industry, we need each and everyone in this world. I mean, each consumer is needed in this revolution.
In your experience, can nature-based science become a platform for international cooperation, or are marine resources becoming a new arena of strategic competition?
Well, it should be a platform for collaboration, and that's the one big thing. I'm very much concerned today with genetic resources from marine genetic resources. If you look at it, the new gene and the patent, I mean, so it means that 160 countries have only 2% of this marine gene. So it means that, okay, it's only for the rich countries, basically, which is a shame because most of the ocean, and we tend to forget that, are in the south hemisphere. I mean, the south hemisphere is 80% ocean, 20% land. The north hemisphere is 60% ocean, 40% land. So most of the ocean are in the southern hemisphere, and most of the license, I mean 98% of the license today, they are in the northern hemisphere. So it's absolutely insane. And we need to stop this neocolonialism with marine resources. So we need, and that's planned in the BBNG, and an organization like yours are critical to do that. GNSD is critical. We need to make sure that there's a proper and a fair redistribution of the profit and the benefit of this, I mean, huge untapped potential lying in the ocean. Because I'm talking about seaweed, but that's just one part of it. I mean, if you talk about the plankton and all the microorganisms there, then it's another galaxy about here. I'm reading a book in England, and I mean UK, in British. I'm reading a book in English about this next May. I mean, plankton is another dimension of progress and innovation, because there's so much lying in the ocean. That seems to me that's the next big frontier, you know, like understanding the ocean. We know more about what's happening on Mars or on the moon than in the ocean. While the ocean are the core system of our life system on the planet.
Perfect. So then you mentioned the global south just because the ocean are concentrated pretty much in the global south. So could seaweed or plankton help rebalance global value chains? Could it become a new blue development pathway for emerging economies?
Of course, yeah, of course, it has to be, and we see that once again clearly in Namibia, in Madagascar, in Tanzania, in in Indonesia, in Philippines. We see that seaweed is supporting the emergence for this country, and a new source of revenues, new technologies, better redistribution of the resources. So there's a great potential, and we see a lot of interest for seaweed in Africa, and that's I think they can go directly to that stage and move directly to that revolution. So yes, there's clearly a huge potential for this country with a lot of benefit as well, because you can, I mean, in most of the like warm countries, you can dry seaweed almost for free, because I mean, you can use a natural heat. You can keep them for long without any cold chain, and they keep all their properties. They don't lose any properties, any nutrients being dried. So that's quite good. So there's a lot of advantage, and it meets a lot of requirements. I mean, seaweed are very rich in iodine, and we know that iodine deficiency is such a big problem in Africa. So yeah, there's a lot of good match for this, and seaweed should definitely support a more equitable world for tomorrow.
So science alone does not create transformation, but ecosystem do. What are the biggest barriers today between scientific discovery and real-world deployment? Is it funding, regulation, narratives, market readiness, or just a whole combination of all?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a whole combination of whole. We are lacking scientists in marine biology. Clearly, there's a gap in marine science. I will take the example of France, which is the second biggest maritime country in the world. So we have 20 times more sea. We are owning 20 times more sea than we have ocean. We have 650 scientists working on two type of width of crops, a very similar one, 650. For 12,000 different type of seaweed, we have 70 scientists. So it's like, okay, we have a big gap, and that's very, very important because we are lacking science. We are lacking collaboration because we all work in isolation. I mean, all scientists mostly work in isolation. So we need to create better collaboration. And collaboration in science is critical on seaweed. It's absolutely critical because once again, it's such a complex ecosystem, the ocean, but it's about the same everywhere. I mean, not the same, of course, they are different, but there's a lot of commonalities. So sharing science is so important here, and we are lacking so much science. And when I get into school or high school or universities, I keep telling the young people, I mean, if you look for a meaning in your life, let's check what's happening in the ocean, because that's where tomorrow is playing, you know. So yeah, science is a big gap. Regulation is a big gap as well. We have a ED patchwork of regulation when it comes to seaweed, which is preventing this market to go global. Once again, market demand, everything is driven by this, and so far it's very poor. So there's and we need advocacy. We need a lot of advocacy as well, and spread this narrative around the world, and spread the word, and sing the seaweed gospel. Tell everyone that if we manage to cultivate the ocean, this next generation that looks doomed to all of us, and that we keep feeding with fears and drama, which is terrible to me, but anyway, that's no content. But this next generation will be remembered as the first one in the end to feed the entire planet for the first time ever as human beings, while mitigating climate change, while boosting biodiversity, and alleviating poverty in the meantime. So they will be remembered as such, but it needs to start now, and it needs all of us, and we need a global collaboration. So we should all be part of this seaweed revolution.
Talking about scientists and students, if a student today wants to contribute to ocean-based solution, what skills should they develop? Scientists, entrepreneurship, system thinking, diplomacy. Where do we fit in the ocean biology?
Once again, it's a full sector to be built, so it's to be supported from everywhere. The thing is that typically, if you look at science, if you want to become a phycologist, a seaweed specialist, there's no courses for that. I mean, there's very little education related to that. So you need to become marimologist and then somehow get specialized in the end. So we need to have courses for algoculture. We need to train people to do it. We need to get, it doesn't make sense to train people to be fishermen or to train people to be even aquaculture because it's not the way it works. So we need science to get ready for that. And they are not right now. And it starts in school. It starts about talking about seaweed at schools, talking about algae.
We often hear that artificial intelligence will shape the geopolitics of the future, but could the ocean become just as strategic? Are we entering a new era of biological geopolitics where marine resources influence economy power and international relations?
I hope so, because once we will realize how much, and I think BBNG is doing a great job on that, but once we will realize how much we can get out of them, how important they are for the basic chemical process on our planet. Producing oxygen, recycling nutrients, mitigating climate change, generating the water cycle, and everything. They are the big powerhouse of our planet from a biologic perspective. So once we will understand that, and once we will understand the huge biodiversity and the huge pool of resources. I mean, look at that. I mean, we have discovered 150 million new genes in the ocean over the last 10 years only. I mean, 10 years ago, we knew about 40 different viruses in the ocean. Now we know 500,000. I mean, there's no other sector in the world that has such such a huge growth in terms of science, in terms of understanding. So once we will understand that, of course, it will become absolutely strategic as a resource in the world. And talking about AI, I do believe that AI is a huge opportunity for the ocean, because so far the ocean is way too complex for us. There's no way to understand how the ocean works. It works, I mean, 90% of the biomass there is microscopic, or 80%, whatever. But the immense majority of the biomass in the ocean is microscopic. We don't understand anything about how it goes, because it's all about a cycle, problem of cycle. I mean, there are no more carbon on the planet than there were 200 million years ago or 200 years ago. I mean, it's just, it has accumulated in the atmosphere. And same with the water, which is now not on the right place. So once you manage the ocean processes, then you rebuild our ecosystem, and you put things in the right way. So, I mean, I think there's a great position from a strategic perspective, in terms of geopolitics, but also in terms of technology. I mean, it all converge, and it should create some new solutions.
And talking about technologies and AI, how could this innovation change your understanding of the ocean? For example, plankton, seaweed, pretty much in the coming decade.
Well, I mean, the ocean twin will be the next big thing, I think, because once again, creating a digital ocean twin is the only way to understand. Because it's one thing to understand what's in the ocean, and we are very far from being there, but understand what is the composition of the ocean, what are the composition of the different organisms in the ocean. Okay, we are getting closer and closer, but we are far from it, but we are progressing. But once we will have reached this understanding, once we will have sampled the entire ocean almost, and be able to tell what's there and where, and what depth and what latitude, what longitude, and so forth, then you have to understand the interactions between these different organisms. And there's millions of them, if not billion. So that level of complexity cannot be managed, but by a huge computer and artificial intelligence. So we need to reach that level of complexity to understand it and to repair it. I think that we need to repair it, and we need to, in order to repair and protect it, we need to understand it. And we won't be able to understand the complexity of the ocean without artificial intelligence. So I'm not like those who are worrying about the artificial intelligence. I think it's a great opportunity, and we can fix the problem of planet if it's properly used. Of course, it's just like anything. It's not about the solution. It's about what you do with the solution. But it's our responsibility to learn from our mistakes in the past and do it well.
And now let's switch from technologies to climate resilience. For example, for coastal communities and island nations already facing climate stress, ocean-based solutions may be critical. Do you see seaweed or plankton primarily as a mitigation tool, or could it become an adaptation revolution?
Well, it will be both. I mean, it will be a mitigation tool. I mean, clearly it needs to mitigate the challenges, but we need to adapt as well to a new world, and they know how to adapt very well. I mean, I'm not scared for plankton typically. I mean, and even seaweed. I mean, they've been here for quite a long time. They've survived to many global extinction already. So in a way or another, they will survive. The question is whether we will survive. The question is not if we will save the ocean. The question is if the ocean is able to save us in the end.
Okay, and just to wrap up, let's imagine the world 10 to 15 years from now. If seaweed movement succeeds, what could the global landscape look like? Could we see seaweed more integrated into the food system, sustainability materials, carbon markers, or energy in agriculture?
Seaweed might be or plankton might be a very local food in the end for all of them. So if we manage to have this big pool, I'm not saying that we will all live on water. I mean, we'll live on the coast as we do, but I mean, this big pool of this big ecosystem area, this big seaweed forest, and will host an incredible biodiversity, produce an amazing biomass, can be a source of producing energy as well, and they will be close to the people. They will be local. So that's where I think, and I see people eating seaweed like every day, and I do believe into it. I mean, if you look at it, in the 1940s, we have a cultural invasion from the US with burgers and Hollywood movies and rock and roll and so forth. And right now, we have a strong soft power from Asia with the mangas and K-pop and Korean soap opera and Korean series and TV show. I mean, and food as well. I mean, sushis became very popular, so why not seaweed? I mean, it could be part of it, and it can go very quickly. So I hope it will. And I hope we will understand that, the ocean is the only way to feed the world in a sustainable way while mitigating the most pressing challenge we have on this planet.
And perhaps more importantly, what should governments, scientists, and innovators start doing today that they are not yet doing?
Investment. I mean, we need to invest in seaweed. We need massive public investment in seaweed, just like there was in other domain, followed by a private investment. But it's too early for private alone. So we need massive investment from the public system. Just want to say that seaweed is a great, great source of hope and optimism, and we should stop feeding the next generation with drama and fears once again. We should feed them with hopes and solutions. That's our role, and seaweed is a great, great solution.
Vincent, thank you very much for this inspiring conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening, and we look forward to welcome you to the next episode.